Chapter 81 The world is about to change. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The huge office fell into a dead silence. The third Hokage intertwined his hands and remained silent. However, all this was simply a shame in Danzo's eyes. It was like a slap in the face. A moment ago, he kept saying that he wanted to control Chin-Yu's destiny. Now, Jiraiya successfully counterattacked easily. Most importantly, Jiraiya also claimed that Chin-Yu was better than him, called him a product of the old days. For him, this is a huge shame. Okay, very good, Jiraiya, you have really become arrogant. Danzo said hello twice. Don't forget, I am Konoha's advisor, you are nothing. Neither does that kid. At this point, Danzo crushed the crutch in his hand and said sternly, everything I did was for the safety of Konoha. You should know very well what will happen once the third Mizukage's affairs are leaked. Question. Now, your only choice is to follow my advice, otherwise you will encounter crazy backlash from Mist Ninja Village and Sand Ninja Village. The hysterical roar moved even the third Hokage. Danzo, are you crazy? You are not going to use this matter to blackmail us into making a decision, are you? The third Hokage knew Danzo's character very well. In order to achieve his goal, he would do anything and would dare to murder even him, the Hokage, let alone Chin-Yu. Humph. Danzo snorted coldly and said with a ferocious expression, I am thinking of Konoha and will immediately recall Chin-Yu and Namake's Minato. If he is unwilling, then he has the intention to defect. Once we return to Konoha, we must imprison him and obtain the seal of the three tails. We must not let the murder of the third Mizukage leak out. If necessary, we must get the method of sealing the tailed beast from Chin-Yu's hands. Jiraiya's expression changed, and he stopped talking, but was stopped by the third Hokage. That's enough, Danzo. The third Hokage said coldly, have you forgotten who is the Hokage? Chin-Yu's killing of the third Mizukage was beyond our control, but we must not imprison him or treat him differently, otherwise don't blame me for settling old scores. As soon as the words fell, the third Hokage's momentum changed instantly. If we say that the third Hokage is usually a peaceful person with an affable look on his face, then the current third Hokage gives people a sense of decisive attack. This is what Hokage looks like. You. Danzo looked livid and his cheeks twitched. However, facing the toughened Sarutobi Hiruzen, Danzo was obviously discouraged. He had too many tricks and was caught by the third Hokage. For example, when going to the Daiming's mansion, he failed to collude with outsiders to assassinate the third Hokage, secretly using people at the route to kill Konoha's competitors and so on. These are all selfish actions on his part. Danzo had also suspected that the third Hokage might even have clues about his collusion with Orochimaru. This situation made Danzo look gloomy for a moment, and then he finally strode away with a puff of sleeves. I can agree with your approach, but I will send the people to monitor it. Seeing Danzo disappearing into the corridor in the blink of an eye, the third Hokage secretly breathed a sigh of relief and looked at Jiraiya. You were impulsive this time and offended Danzo. He is very vindictive. Mito Menyen and Koharu's cheeks couldn't help but twitch. In their eyes, it is normal for two masters and apprentices to speak ill of others behind closed doors. Now in front of them, dragging them into the water. When they thought of the third Hokage's evaluation of Danzo, the two coughed dryly, and Mito Kabuto spoke. Now that the matter has been concluded, it's not good for us to stay any longer and leave first. Leaving these words behind, Mito Kadoyan and Koharu, who had gone to bed, hurriedly left. For a time, only Jiraiya and the third Hokage were left in the huge office. Okay, they're all gone. I know you have other things to say. The third Hokage spoke again. Jiraiya pulled up a chair and sat down without any formality. In addition to the information just now, Fukasaku-sama also brought me a message. This ninja world is going to change. What? The third Hokage's expression changed dramatically. The meaning of this sentence is too great. If an ordinary person said it, he would never take it seriously. However, the strength and monster-like talent displayed by Uchiha Chin-Yu moved him. Now, given this thought-provoking statement, how can people not pay attention to it? Teacher, I guess Chin-Yu must know that the three big toads will tell me all this, so he said this. Jiraiya said with a solemn expression. When I taught him the art of channeling, I was as superficial as Danzo. I thought I could easily suppress this brat by myself. Unfortunately, I was wrong. I learned the art of channeling in an instant. Not only was the summoning successful, but I also summoned 3 giant toads at the same time. This is something that even I find difficult to accomplish. As the spokesperson of Myaboku Mountain, Jiraiya has certain privileges, for example, summoning 2 immortals to perform a combined immortal technique, feel free to enter Mount Myoki and more. However, all this is based on the premise that he has obtained the approval of the Great Toad Immortal. However, now that Chinyu had not even entered Miyamu Mountain, he was able to break the precedent and summon 3 giant toads at the same time. This alone is enough to show that Chinyu is different. Are you saying that even the 2 immortals from Miyamu Mountain noticed Chinyu? The 3rd Hokage said solemnly. Jiraiya nodded and said, the Great Toad Sage made a prophecy before, saying that the ninja world will be in turmoil. I originally thought that this was referring to the 3rd Ninja War, but now I think that this matter may be related to Chinyu. Furthermore, Master Fukasaku told me that the Great Toad Immortal has decided to let Chinyu enter Miyamu Mountain to practice immortal arts, hoping to use this to find a breakthrough in Chinyu. Let him practice immortality. The 3rd Hokage's expression changed. Jiraiya, are you saying that Master Fukasaku intends to test Chinyu's learning talent with the help of celestial arts training? The strength he has shown now has exceeded our knowledge. If he can even master the immortal mode, it may be a bit passive for us. After 15 years of dormancy, he suddenly became a man of heaven, Manjikyu Sharingan, powerful lightning escape, and monster-like learning talent. Now even the 3rd Mizukage was killed and the 3 tails were easily tamed. All this is difficult for even the 3rd Hokage to do. If Chinyu were to master the sage mode that Jiraiya had worked so hard to learn, that strength will probably skyrocket to another terrifying level. Chapter 82 I just killed the 3rd generation Mizukage. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Looking at the frown of the 3rd Hokage, Jiraiya sighed helplessly and said, I have thought about this problem, but with the talent Chinyu has shown now, he can also remove the wet bones without learning the sage mode at Miyamu Mountain. Linha Longdi Cave. Don't forget how greedy those big snakes are. If Chinyu gives enough conditions, it will not be difficult to get the opportunity to learn the immortal mode. Having said this, Jiraiya took out the token Fukasaku gave him and said, what's more, the Great Toad Sage has lived for a long time. With him keeping an eye on Chinyu, we should get more information. The 3rd Hokage was silent. He had no way to refute Jiraiya's words. As Jiraiya said, everything Chinyu showed was beyond their control. Moreover, let him leave for a while, practice the immortal mode, and test the depth of his learning talent. Maybe that's not a bad thing. Well, since you already have an idea, I'll leave this matter to you. The 3rd Hokage sighed and said, before you figure out Chinyu's position, you have to be careful Danzo. Also, I hope you can find a way to improve Minato's strength, otherwise his chances of winning will become smaller in the face of Chinyu's rise. The 3rd Hokage will take Chinyu's decision and stand seriously, but when faced with the choice of the next Hokage, the 3rd Hokage still preferred Minato Namikaze, who knew the basics. Looking at Jiraiya who was rubbing his nose, the 3rd Hokage said helplessly, if you are willing to inherit this position, I won't have such a headache. The 3 ninjas of the past were so outstanding. They were also my face. Now they can walk and retreat. Even you are hiding. If you were here, we in Konoha would not be in this situation. After hearing these words, Jiraiya's expression froze for a moment, then quickly recovered, rolled his eyes and said, you old man, don't play the emotional card on me here. Don't forget, I trained a Minato to replace me. However, don't worry. When Fukasaku-sama left, I asked Minato for a chance to learn the Sage Mode. As long as he learns the Sage Mode, his strength will definitely surpass that of my teacher. Faced with Chinyu's strong rise, it was really a joke for Jiraiya to say that he was not worried, especially when I see a disciple that I am proud of being surpassed step by step. There is always a hurdle in my heart. Therefore, driven by selfishness and relying on his small connections, Jiraiya acted selfishly. You are still the same guy, you like to play tricks in private. The 3rd Hokage chuckled and said, I really hope that Minato can surpass Chinyu under the Sage Mode learning. TCH, you old man, don't you believe in your disciple? Jiraiya rolled his eyes and said, don't forget, Minato is the golden shining star of Konoha. His talent is among the many students I have taught. One of the best. With him personally taking action, I believe he will be able to surpass Uchiha Chinyu. Just wait for the news. After leaving these words, Jiraiya turned around and disappeared into the office. Watching this figure leave, the third Hokage sighed quietly, stood up and looked out the window at the Konoha ninja village. Did the ninja world really change because of a boy? 3 days later, Chinyu and his party crossed the border of Konoha. After avoiding many war zones in a roundabout way, they finally saw Konoha's sealed gate. Within these days, Chinyu also learned from Namikaze Minato that after the Kanakan Bridge was blown up, the IWA ninja lost their food supply. The vanguard was completely annihilated by Chinyu and Namikaze Minato, resulting in low morale. At the same time, a most important thing happened. In Cloud Ninja Village, the third Raikage personally led the troops to attack the tailed beast Jinchuriki in IWA Ninja Village in a roundabout way, and a larger-scale battle broke out. Although, the final result is not yet known, however, what Kyumo Ninja did gave Konoha Ninja Village a chance to breathe. All the frontline wars with the IWA Ninja Village stopped. It can be said that facing the 4 major countries, IWA Ninja Village's combat power and number of people are second only to Konoha, and at the same time, it is slightly stronger than Kyumo Ninja Village. Yunren was obviously holding on, after suffering a loss in Chinyu's hands, seeing that the IWA Ninja was also suffering on the front line. In order to suppress the IWA Ninja, the third Raikage took such a risk to attack the IWA Ninja Village. However, when he learned that the target of the third Raikage's attack was the tailed beast, Chinyu knew that his purpose was obviously because Kurabi knew how to perfectly match the tailed beast, and he planned to use this opportunity to hunt the tailed beast to enhance the strength of the Cloud Ninja Village. Chinyu, you are finally back. Uchiha Fugaku's voice suddenly sounded. 3 figures appeared in front of the team like ghosts. Brother. Uchiha Itachi glanced at Chinyu, looking like he was about to speak but then stopped. As for the young man standing next to Itachi Uchiha, who was slightly older than 4 or 5 years and carrying a short sword, Chinyu also recognized him instantly. Okay, if you have anything to say, leave it to your uncle. Chinyu rubbed Uchiha Itachi's head and said, Shursui, long time no see. In the memory of the previous Uchiha Chinyu, there are also memories of Uchiha Shursui. Moreover, Uchiha Shursui has a gentle personality, and in the village, he is very concerned about Chinyu, a low-ranking person like him. In that vague memory, Uchiha Shursui also taught him how to learn the art of shuriken in his previous life. Chinyu, I haven't seen you for a long time. I didn't expect you to hide so deeply. Last time I shamelessly taught you the art of shuriken. Uchiha Shursui smiled bitterly. Looking at this scene, Chinyu touched the tip of his nose helplessly. You can't tell him that the last crane was lost to a genius like him. This beautiful misunderstanding can only allow him to continue. Okay, let's leave the old things together for later. The 3 of you came here in person to figure out what happened. Uchiha Chinyu said. As soon as he said these words, even Namikaze Minato's expression became stiff. He was passing on the information about Chinyu to Jiraiya. However, Jiraiya has been avoiding talking about what happened next and the decision-making. Now that Uchiha Fugaku is waiting here in person, it is enough to see the seriousness of the situation. It took a lot of effort for me to use Itachi and Shursui as an excuse to get rid of the spy surveillance. I came out here to try my luck. I didn't expect to actually meet you. Uchiha Fugaku opened his Sharingan, looked around and said, recently, the family settlement has been monitored by many Umbu people, and there are even more people who belong to Danzo's roots. With this change, the first person I think of is you. I want to know what happened. Uchiha Fugaku didn't pay much attention to Namikaze Minato's presence. It can be said that in Uchiha Fugaku's heart, Namikaze Minato is the only Konoha high-level person he has a heart-to-heart with. He is also the only candidate who hopes to become Hokage. However, now that Chinyu had changed, he still couldn't calm down. Are they all taking action? This is very efficient. Chinyu touched the tip of his nose and said, "It's not a big deal. I just killed the third Mizukage and then turned the three-tailed over. It seems that Danzo is also old. I can't sit still for such a trivial matter." The low voice made Uchiha Fugaku and the others confused. The look in Chinyu's eyes became unreal. Killing the third Mizukage and kidnapping the three tails, is this still a small matter? Chapter 83. Sure enough, everything is true. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chinyu, you said you killed the third Mizukage, weren't you kidding? Uchiha Fugaku grabbed Chinyu's shoulders and asked urgently. Brother Fugaku, it's true, and we can prove it. Namikaze Minato smiled bitterly and looked at Chinyu's open backpack. Three Tails is still resting in the backpack. Hearing this, Uchiha Fugaku and the others became anxious and quickly surrounded him. Who disturbed me from my rest? Sanwei stretched out and popped out of his backpack. Yes, it's a tailed beast. Uchiha Itachi was obviously startled and subconsciously took a half step back, almost falling to the ground. Fortunately, Chinyu had quick hands and eyes and grabbed his shoulder. It's really the three-tailed Isabutsu. Uchiha Fugaku, as the leader of the clan, had also seen portraits of tailed beasts. The scene before me already seemed unreal. Hey, boy over there, I heard that you have Iraka ramen in Konoha. How about you take me to try it? I won't treat you badly. Sanwei suddenly said. Me? Uchiha Itachi pointed at himself and said, is there really no problem? Don't worry, as long as I can eat enough, I won't go berserk, otherwise, hey, I'm going to beat you up. Sanwei said angrily. You little Sanwei, if you don't train for a day, your bones will feel itchy. Chinyu slapped Sanwei directly on the back of his head. The majestic tailed beast was immediately frightened. Right. Uchiha Fugaku and others were not mistaken. The majestic tailed beast, in Chinyu's hands, seemed to have become Era. Is this still the existence they know that can destroy mountains and forests in a fit of anger? Brother, can I take it to eat a Chiraku ramen? Uchiha Itachi said after hesitating for a moment. However, as soon as he said these words, four figures flashed out of the darkness and surrounded Chinyu and his party. Uchiha Chinyu, the third Hokage, I hope you can visit the Hokage's residence. The leading ANBU said coldly. However, they obviously knew the purpose of this mission. The moment they saw the three tails, their pupils suddenly shrank. Chinyu. Uchiha Fugaku's expression changed. He was quickly stopped by Namikaze Minato, who shook his head and said, Don't worry, Jiraiya-sensei is here, it's nothing serious. Chinyu, don't take it to heart. Don't worry, if I want to leave, they can't stop me. Chinyu said with a smile. However, as soon as these words were spoken, the nerves of the four Umbu present suddenly became tense. When they came out, they were given many instructions by three consultants. After the four of them looked at each other, they found that Chinyu disappeared out of thin air. Alert! The leader of the ANBU shouted urgently. The four ANBU ninjas immediately took up their stance. I'm here. Don't be slow. I don't care if you waste time. The voice floated in front of the sealed door. The expressions of those present, except Namikaze Minato who had long been accustomed to it, the three Uchiha Fugaku and the four Umbu also changed drastically. This teleportation technique is too fast. Uchiha Shirsui's expression changed slightly. He is famous in the ninja world for his teleportation technique. In the moment just now, Chinyu's burst of speed was not inferior to him. Go ahead, this is my kunai, let me know if anything happens. Namikaze Minato handed the Flying Thunder God kunai to the leading ANBU ninja. Go ahead, as long as you don't provoke him, he won't mess around. During this period of time together, Minato Namikaze had a good understanding of Chinyu's character, approachable, but decisive in killing. There are principles for being a human being, and there are also untouchable reverse scales. Yes. The ANBU ninja who took the lead nodded gratefully and quickly caught up with Chinyu. Seeing the four people leaving, Uchiha Fugaku couldn't hold back his anger. Minato, didn't you agree to help me watch over Chinyu? Why did you even kill the third Mizukage and bring back the three-tailed Isafu? I'm afraid Danzo won't give up on this matter. Namikaze Minato smiled helplessly and said, Chinyu has more tricks than I imagined. However, if we really get to the bottom of it, the third Mizukage was killed by the tailed beast's backlash. Chinyu only suppressed the three tails. The responsibility is not on him. It's just that I'm worried that Danzo doesn't think so. Once this matter is not handled well, it may make things more complicated. Uchiha Fugaku's expression changed. Now the Uchiha clan's position in the Konoha ninja village is already very embarrassing. If something happens again, it will be even worse for the Uchiha clan. Uncle, let me go and take a look. Uchiha Shirsue's expression darkened, his figure swayed, and he used the teleportation technique and disappeared. In front of the Hokage's mansion. It seems quiet here, but there are already hidden sentries all around. There are so many people, there are hundreds of them. Jiraiya was leaning in front of the door, staring and waiting for Chinyu's arrival. Lovable immortal, didn't you go to the bathhouse to take a peek today? Chinyu said hello with a smile. The ANBU present could not help but twitch their cheeks. Jiraiya came to his senses, his eyes twitching. If he were an ordinary person, exposing his background like this would have already given him a punch on the head. You kid, you are really restless. Jiraiya suppressed the helplessness in his heart and said, let's go, they are all waiting for you. Don't worry, I will help you with this matter. Also, Master Fukasaku has promised to give you the opportunity to learn Senjutsu. After this matter is completed, you can go to Mtlnovel. As for Chinyu's character traits, Jiraiya has repeatedly confirmed with Namikaze Minato. Therefore, when they first met, Jiraiya threw out some good news, hoping to make the next thing go smoothly. Okay, what's the benefit? We'll talk about it later. Let's take care of the business first. Chinyu smiled and patted Jiraiya on the shoulder. Otherwise, even the main business will be messed up, and it won't be of much use if you throw out this hot cake. Looking at Chinyu, who was walking towards the Hokage building first, Jiraiya couldn't see through Chinyu more and more. He didn't know why he was so confident when faced with Konoha's top brass and hundreds of umbus surrounding him under such tight security. Teacher, we are here. Jiraiya knocked on the door, and after receiving a response, he pushed it open. Everyone's eyes suddenly fell on Chinyu. No. It should be said that more is given to Sanwei Isafu. They are eager to verify the authenticity of the intelligence. Sure enough, everything is true. The third Hokage spoke solemnly. Chapter 84 Danzo's Thoughts. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The huge office fell into a dead silence, after seeing the three-tailed body reduced countless times, like a rag doll, sleeping on Chinyu's backpack. The pupils of the three advisors, including Danzo, suddenly shrank. It can be said that the scene in front of me was too shocking. In their eyes, the tailed beast should be sealed in a vessel or inside a human body. To be able to act like this and behave so harmlessly was completely beyond their understanding. If you don't see it with your own eyes, who would want to believe it? Chinyu, welcome back. The third Hokage spoke first. I already know about your activity on the front line from Namikaze Minato's report. I have also heard about the fact that the Kingdom of Water kidnapped Noara Rin and planned to succeed the third Mizukage and become the three-tailed Jinchuriki. However, the person who died this time was the third Mizukage, and he has been implicated in the highest level of politics, so for the sake of you and Konoha, we made some decisions after discussion. The third Hokage went straight to the topic as soon as he opened his mouth. At the same time, he stared at Chinyu, trying to find a change in his expression on his face. The third Hokage is really straightforward. I like this way of doing things. Let me know what you decide. If it's reasonable, I won't mind. Chinyu smiled warmly. Boy, you are so presumptuous. Danzo shouted coldly. This understatement made their expressions change slightly. Formally, the juniors would already be filled with awe when they saw them alone, not to mention, Chinyu could still be so calm when facing the three top brass of Konoha and the Hokage at once. This can't help but make people think about what trump cards they have. Why am I so arrogant? Chinyu smiled playfully. Is it because I let you need me that I don't act arrogantly? Don't forget, I came back with meritorious service, and I should be rewarded based on my merits, not punished by an army. The low voice made Danzo's expression freeze for a moment, however, this time, before he could speak, he was stopped by the third Hokage's detective. Okay, Chinyu is right. The third Hokage's eyes flickered and he said, this time, Chinyu is only indirectly related to the death of the third Mizukage. You have also made a lot of contributions on the battlefield, but this time the matter is too closely related, so I hope you can stay well in Konoha village during the next period of time and wait for the end of the war. During this period of time, I will arrange ANBU to protect you. After the words fell, everyone's eyes fell on Chinyu, and even Jiraiya became nervous. He was entrusted by Namake's Minato to solve this matter perfectly. If anything went wrong, it would be his fault. Is this the only requirement? Chinyu said calmly, as long as they don't prevent me from eating, drinking, having fun, and picking up girls, it's not a big problem. I'll be happy and free, and I'll give you some face. Listening to these slightly teasing words, Jiraiya secretly breathed a sigh of relief. As long as Chinyu is willing to agree to this condition, the next matter will be easy to solve. He could also explain to Namake's Minato. Okay, since Chinyu agreed to this request, Minato will be responsible for the next thing. A smile appeared on the face of the third Hokage. Chinyu, if you have nothing else to do, please step back first. During this period of time, he also thought hard about many candidates to monitor Chinyu. However, after some calculations, it was decided to activate Namake's Minato. Whether it's friendship or strength, Namake's Minato also possesses the Flying Thunder God technique and has good maneuverability, making him more capable of this task. Then I'll leave first. Chinyu glanced at Danzo with a gloomy face, smiled warmly, and turned around to leave. Jiraiya smiled helplessly. Facing Danzo, he was wary, worried that it would cause trouble. Now Chinyu is still provoking him in public. This is simply the audacity of an expert. Teacher, I'm leaving first. Jiraiya quickly followed. However, as soon as he turned around, his expression changed drastically. Secret technique, heart-turning technique. 5 figures appeared in all directions in an instant, and at the same time they performed the secret techniques of the Mountain Clan. At the same time, 5 root ninjas also rushed out one after another, all using sealing techniques in their hands. The great binding technique of the 5 elements. That the violent scene shook everyone's nerves. Even the third Hokage and Jiraiya were shocked. Danzo's lips curled up slightly, revealing a playful smile. In a blink of an eye, Danzo appeared behind Chinyu first. Many curse seals spread out from his left hand, and he shot it directly on Sanwei's body. Sealing technique, the technique of self-inflicted curse seal. As soon as they took action, 5 people from the Mountain Clan, under the leadership of Shan Feng, performed the art of turning around. Then let Aburame take the root and activate the sealing technique to restrict Chinyu's movements. In the end, it was Danzo who took action against the Three Tails. This plan, in the eyes of the third Hokage and others, was extremely seamless. However, the person they faced this time was unfathomable. Chinyu is known as Chinyu, who had been lurking for 15 years before he became famous. I'm afraid this method is not enough at the moment. Danzo, your methods are really disappointing. Chinyu smiled warmly. The moment he turned around, he had already activated the 9 Magatama Sharingan. If we really want to say who has stronger mental power, the 5 people in Shanfeng combined may not be 1/10 as powerful as Chinyu, who has Tsukimi. At the moment when the secret technique was cast, the 5 people rushed into Chinyu's consciousness space. The first thing they saw was the huge Sharingan suspended in the consciousness space. The magic seals formed by flying around in his hand stopped instantly, and his expression fell into a sluggish state. Looking at the oncoming attack of Aburame Torin and others, Chinyu's 9 Magatama Sharingan suddenly turned down, and Susanoo quickly condensed it. The huge body and the burst of air waves directly blew away the approaching Danzo, Aburame Arigen, and others. The originally small Hokage's office was directly breached. The violent scene shook everyone's nerves. Looking at the huge body about 10 meters high in front of them, even Danzo was moved by it. He had also seen this kind of monster once in Uchiha Madara. it was precisely because of this battle that the first Hokage was seriously injured and died. It can be said that the Susanoo in front of him can definitely be hailed as the incarnation of disaster. The scarlet appearance exudes a fierce aura. Chapter 85. I also like to practice with more people. You are listening at novelfull.audio. As soon as the huge Susanoo appeared, the Hokage's mansion was instantly breached. Under the strong wind and waves, the building debris rolled up was scattered around like a storm. Is this the legendary Mangekyo Sharingan, the most powerful pupil technique owned by Madara Uchiha? The third Hokage rushed out of the ruins, looking at the huge body. A look of anger flashed on his face. Danzo, are you crazy? Why don't you implement the decision you discussed? That the hysterical roar made both Jiraiya and Mitokaduan's expressions change. This was the first time they had seen the third Hokage, who belonged to the conservative group, be so furious. However, before they could react, Susanoo's right hand suddenly reached out, and with lightning speed, he directly caught the flying Aburame tune. The violent scene shook everyone's nerves. Danzo, who rushed out of the ruins and fell to the side, turned pale, and yelled urgently, "Chinyu, let him go quickly. You dare to destroy the Hokage's mansion. If you are still in the village, kill your companions. That's enough to be sentenced to treason." Danzo, you're crazy. The third Hokage's face changed drastically, and he shouted urgently, "You are not qualified to make a decision on this matter. Shut up. Chinyu, don't be impulsive, leave this matter to me." That the hurried words echoed between heaven and earth. The two people present, Jiraiya and Mitokaduan, and even the ANBU ninjas had never seen the third Hokage so angry. Unfortunately, some things cannot be solved with words, at least, not in Chinyu's eyes. A warm smile appeared on Chinyu's face. The 9 Magatama Sharingan suddenly turned down, and Susanoo's right hand suddenly clenched tightly. "Don't want." Aburame Togen screamed in pain. His most powerful skill is the parasitic insect technique, which has a pervasive attack method. However, facing Susanoo, who had absolute defense and didn't even have half a hole, there was obviously no way to put it to use. Facing Chinyu's smile, which was like a death-like smile, the next moment, the stinging pain all over his body hit his mind crazily. Phew. A sound like a watermelon breaking suddenly came out. Everyone's pupils suddenly shrank, especially those ANBU ninjas. They think there is still a long way to go compared to Aburame Takegen. In terms of means, it is even more incomparable. However, this kind of existence that can be called an elite jounin was unable to withstand the clenching of his fingers, and his response was like a watermelon, which was crushed directly. Now, they were only a little happy in their hearts, glad that they had not acted recklessly just now. "Chinyu, you are seeking death." Danzo roared angrily. Aburame Takegen was a confidant that he had spent a lot of effort to cultivate and was the mainstay of the roots. After his warning, Chinyu even pinched him to death in public, which was the biggest provocation to him. "Haha, this Susanoo was controlled by me, and he was still very raw. I accidentally crushed him to death. This was an accident. I believe you will understand, Danzo." Chinyu smiled playfully. However, this smile, at this moment, undoubtedly became Chiguagua's provocation. "Come here, kill him." Danzo looked ferocious. As a high-level advisor to Konoha and the leader of the Roots, this was the first time for him to be so despised. However, as soon as he finished speaking, 2 figures, like ghosts, surrounded Danzo one behind the other. "That's enough, Danzo." Jiraiya pressed Danzo's left shoulder. As for his right shoulder, it was caught by Namikaze Minato, Uchiha Fugaku and Uchiha Shisui, who followed closely behind him, turned pale as they looked at the illusory figure standing in the ruins in front of them. What they were most worried about happened. Minato, Jiraiya, and Chinyu are killing their companions without restraint in the village. This is treason to the village. Danzo shouted sternly, "Don't stop me, I will let this junior know that the Konoha ninja village is not him. A place where you can run wild." "That's enough, Danzo. Minato and I are not trying to stop you." Jiraiya looked at Chinyu, who was inside the Susanoo, and said solemnly, "We are worried that you will be killed." A small voice swept through the entire place like a hurricane at this moment. The dignified root leader and the 3 top brass of Konoha. Danzo's strength can definitely be called Kage level. It is precisely because he possesses this strength that Danzo wants to become Hokage again and again. however, Jiraiya, now a Sannin, gave this evaluation, regardless of whether it is true or not. If it falls in the ears of others, it will undoubtedly be a slap in the face. Asshole, Jiraiya, what are you talking about? If you have the nerve, get out of the way and I'll let you understand why I can become the leader of the Roots. Danzo shouted angrily. However, this time, the person who appeared in front of Danzo first was the third Hokage. Danzo, that's enough. Go back now. You can't step out of the mansion without my order. Otherwise, don't blame me for missing old friendships. The third Hokage said coldly. You used to be able to weigh the pros and cons and understand what fear is, but now you are blinded by benefits and you still haven't seen it yet. That kid, making such a big fuss in the village and facing so many people, can still show a relaxed expression. This proves that he is not afraid at all and has enough confidence to escape. If you still take action rashly, I'm afraid you will be like Aburame Toshi. Dead as the Roots. Danzo's expression froze, and the moment he met Chinyu's eyes, he was unable to refute. This was the first time that he saw Sarutobi Hiruzen, an old and strategizing opponent, say such unconfident words. What's more, this is the Konoha ninja village, their base camp. Under such favorable circumstances, the third Hokage still gave this kind of evaluation. For Danzo, it was beyond expectations. Chinyu, if you kill the person, your anger should be gone, why not just let it go? Uchiha Fugaku was the first to lose his temper. As the leader of the Uchiha clan, if he doesn't break the deadlock now, the situation may get worse. Moreover, he also has a responsibility to set an example in this situation. Looking at Uchiha Chinyu with a smile on his face, Uchiha Fugaku's nerves were tense to the extreme. He had always heard about Chinyu's strength, but after seeing it with his own eyes, Uchiha Fugaku realized that Chinyu's strength was far beyond his imagination. If Chinyu insists on going his own way and wants to fight, his trump card will be exposed. Once this time comes, the situation for the Uchiha clan will become even more serious. What Fugaku said is correct. This is the end of Chinyu's matter. We will give you an explanation next. The third Hokage also spoke in agreement. Danzo was too reckless this time. Seeing that even the third Hokage was persuading, the expressions of everyone present changed. The look he looked at Chinyu also had a hint of urgency. Just a moment ago, Jiraiya and others' high praise made them clearly know that if the boy in front of them said no, a fierce battle would be waiting for them. Since my uncle has spoken to the third Hokage, if I don't give him this face, it seems that I have really become a sinner. Chinyu laughed dryly and said, but I also like it very much. Danzo, send me more people, practice your hands. Chapter 86. This joke is not funny. You are listening at novelfull.audio. You bastard. Danzo roared with a ferocious expression. As a high-ranking member of Konoha and the leader of the Roots, when had he ever been so despised? Moreover, Chinyu's strength is indeed beyond his control, but he still has a trump card. Danzo, shut up. The third Hokage shouted coldly. Mito, you send Danzo back to me. You can't let him leave the Roots without my order. Sarutobi you. Danzo was furious. However, after meeting the third Hokage's unquestioning gaze and the words that came to his lips, he swallowed them back in his stomach in an instant. He suddenly fluffed his sleeves, turned around and said coldly, I will go back by myself, but I won't give up on this matter easily, even if there is anyone behind you to support you. After these harsh words, Danzo did not stay any longer. Watching him leave, Uchiha Fugaku's mood not only did not relax, but became even heavier. This bridge has been forged. Teacher. Jiraiya couldn't help but look over. The third Hokage sighed heavily and said, Minato, please send Chinyu back first, and leave the rest to me. Namake's Minato didn't shirk. From the beginning, he felt uneasy. Unfortunately, he didn't expect that things would become so big and completely beyond his control. If he had expected this, he would never have let Chinyu go to the Hokage's mansion alone. The only thing that can be done now is how to repair the gap between the two sides. Chaotic thoughts flashed through my mind. Namake's Minato swayed and landed next to Chinyu. Uchiha Fugaku obviously couldn't let go and followed quickly. Chinyu, let's go. Namake's Minato spoke first. Well, I'm causing trouble for you. Chinyu laughed dryly. Namikaze Minato said with a bitter look on his face, fortunately, you know how to hold back. You only killed one, otherwise I would kill them all. I can't handle this either. I don't know whether you should be merciful or trying to save my face. Next, don't forget to give me a delicious meal. And me, I didn't cause any trouble just now. The three-tailed Isafu also got out of Chinyu's backpack, seeing that one person and one beast had not forgotten to eat at this juncture. Uchiha Fugaku felt even heavier. As Chinyu and the others left, only Jiraiya and the third Hokage remained in the huge ruins. The other ANBU members were obviously going to evacuate the other villagers and shinobi who had been alerted. Jiraiya, if you use your trump card, are you sure you can defeat Chinyu? The third Hokage suddenly spoke. As a teacher, he knew what Jiraiya was capable of. If we say that among the three ninjas, Orochimaru's efforts were all poured into the development of forbidden techniques, Tsunade focused on medical ninjutsu, then Jiraiya is the one who is best at fighting. It can be said that among the three mid-laners, Jiraiya is the strongest in terms of combat power. 50% chance of winning. This is the conclusion that Chinyu has no hidden cards. Jiraiya said solemnly. If he has any other trump cards, then I'm not very sure. If there were anyone else in the room who heard Jiraiya give this kind of comment, they would definitely take a breath of air. Sannin, that's a being comparable to Kage level. If you use immortal mode, it is not difficult to reach the super shadow level. However, it is unbelievable to give such a high evaluation to a junior now. The third Hokage was silent, and after a full 7 or 8 seconds, he spoke. In your eyes, the most terrifying thing about him is probably not him now. Yes, his terrifying learning talent, right? Yes. Jiraiya nodded solemnly. That's why I promised Fukasaku-sama to let him learn Sage Mode and make a final evaluation of his dangers. After Jiraiya returned to learn Senjutsu, the third Hokage was also shown off by him. Therefore, it is clear how difficult it is to learn Sage Mode. In every era, among hundreds or thousands of testers, only one can achieve it. In other words, there is no way to achieve even one. Moreover, once the cultivation fails, he will turn into a frog, or be directly turned into a stone frog statue. It can be said that practicing immortal mode is a double-edged sword. After witnessing Chinyu's terror with his own eyes, a ridiculous thought flashed through the mind of the third Hokage. If Chinyu fails, will the whole thing be better? However, as soon as this thought came up, it was suppressed by the so-called justice of the third Hokage. Then when do you plan to send him away? The third Hokage sighed faintly and said, this time Danzo broke the original agreement and fought with Chinyu. This hatred has been forged. Although he did not kill the third Mizukage, he is indirectly related to him, so I hope you handle this matter as soon as possible. Jiraiya nodded and said, don't worry, I will arrange for him and Minato to go there tomorrow. It will take at least several months to practice the Sage Mode. After this period of time, the Third Ninja War will probably also take its over. On the other hand, Chinyu returned to the Uchiha clan's residence under the escort of Uchiha Fugaku and Namikaze Minato. Since the previous Uchiha Chinyu's parents died when he was young, his residence was arranged next to Uchiha Fugaku's house. Right behind them, there were Uchiha Shisui and Uchiha Itachi. You are finally back. Uchiha Mikoto heard the footsteps and opened the door first. When she saw Chinyu, a soft smile appeared on her face. Chinyu, welcome home safely. Aunt, you're still the same sweet-mouthed person. I don't have any gifts, so why don't I give you this thing? Chinyu lifted the three tails out with his backhand. The sudden action left everyone confused, even Uchiha Mikoto. Boss, you are so unethical. You just took me in as your younger brother, and now you have given me away and spread the news. Other tailed beasts will not be so easily fooled. The three tails were instantly anxious. This thing can talk. Uchiha Mikoto couldn't help but be startled and asked, what is it? The three-tailed Isabutsu, like the nine tails, is a tailed beast weapon. Uchiha Fugaku was the first to speak. Chinyu, this joke is not funny. Besides, are you planning to get your hands on other tailed beast weapons? Chapter 87 The Forbidden Area of the Uchiha Clan. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Fugaku, don't be so serious. What if you scare the child? Uchiha Mikoto glared and waved, Chinyu, and prepared a delicious meal for you. I have something important to announce. Important things? Uchiha Fugaku and others were startled. Chinyu was no exception, but he quickly looked at Uchiha Mikoto's slightly bulging belly. Auntie, are you pregnant? The sudden words made Uchiha Fugaku's expression stagnant, and he said anxiously, Mikoto, is everything Chinyu said true? Uchiha Mikoto was stunned and said, Chinyu, I didn't know until I came back from going to the doctor just now. How did you see it? At this moment, even Uchiha Fugaku and others noticed something was wrong. Could it be the power of the kaleidoscope? Uchiha Fugaku frowned and said, Mikoto, be careful in the coming time. Itachi, Shursui, go and help with the meal. Minato, you can also stay for a light meal. You haven't had a drink with me for more than a year. Fugaku, you are really polite. I haven't tried my sister-in-law's cooking for a long time. Namake's Minato was not a fool. In an instant, he saw Uchiha Fugaku's intention to discuss with Chinyu alone. If it were anyone else, Namake's Minato would never let Chinyu out of sight, but as a good brother, Namake's Minato knew very well that Uchiha Fugaku would not gamble with the family's fate casually, otherwise, the fate of the family would not have changed and it would have been placed on him. Thank you Minato. After Uchiha Fugaku showed gratitude, he looked at Chinyu and said, Chinyu, come with me. I want to talk to you alone. Yes. Chinyu did not refuse. At least under the past kindness, he still had due respect for the elders of Uchiha Fugaku's family. He casually threw the 3 tails to Uchiha Itachi, who looked stunned. Just give it a meal and don't mess around. Yes, the boss is right, just give me a half-full meal. Sanwei Isafu didn't take it to heart at all for Chinyu's disrespect. Seeing the majestic-tailed beast degraded to just 1 meal was enough to satisfy him. This huge gap made Namake's Minato feel helpless, but more than anything, he was still shocked by Chinyu's methods. If he really comes into contact with other tailed beasts, will he be tamed like the 3 tailed beasts? Once this happens, the entire ninja world will probably tremble. Chinyu followed Uchiha Fugaku and walked all the way to the basement. Seeing that the mysterious sealing techniques along the way were lifted one by Uchiha Fugaku, Chinyu knew that the purpose of this trip was probably a forbidden area for the Uchiha clan. After passing through the final corridor, the two finally arrived at the sealed door. This door is made of special chakra iron and has the ability to absorb chakra, able to be immune to certain attacks. Coupled with some sealing techniques and a few S-level ninjutsu, it can be broken open. Chinyu, you should have guessed that this is a forbidden area for our Uchiha clan. In addition to the clan leaders of each generation, only those who have opened the Mangekyo Sharingan can do so. Uchiha Fugaku said solemnly. This time, it's up to you to open it. Chinyu did not refuse, and took half a step forward. The 9 Magatama Sharingan suddenly turned down, and the mysterious sealing technique on the door began to rotate rapidly. The next moment, it turned into a bloody eye. A huge amount of spiritual power rushed straight into Chinyu's mind. Humph, Madara Uchiha, get out of here. Chinyu snorted coldly, and his huge mental power surged out like a frenzy. This is the sealing technique left by Uchiha Madara. When activated by the Mangekyo Sharingan, it will trigger the impact of the illusion he left behind to test the successor's strength. Looking at Chinyu, who suddenly woke up, Uchiha Fugaku's expression changed. That day, when he entered for the first time, although he also opened the Mangekyo Sharingan, there was no way to achieve Chinyu's level. At that time, it took him a minute to wake up, and he was already praised as a genius by the previous patriarch, his father. Now Chinyu only spent a short breath. This huge gap shocked Uchiha Fugaku, who had been mentally prepared for a long time. If he is a genius, then Chinyu in front of him is a naked monster. Let's go. Chinyu walked into the secret room first. There are many scrolls inside, as well as a rough stone tablet with a Mangekyo Sharingan carved on it. Uchiha Fugaku came to his senses and followed quickly. This is where our Uchiha clan stores ninjutsu scrolls and family iron news. However, when Madara left, many of them were taken away, leaving only a few ninjutsu. You can look through it. Uchiha Fugaku after looking around, he said, as for that stone tablet, you can use a kaleidoscope to open it. You may get some special inheritance. But before that, I want to know what you have in mind. Are you planning to follow Uchiha Madara's path again? Speaking of this, Uchiha Fugaku's eyes became a little sharper, and he wanted to see a change in Chinyu's face. If I said that I met Madara Uchiha on the battlefield, would you believe it? Chinyu met his gaze with a smile. The words were not loud, but when they fell in Uchiha Fugaku's ears, they were like thunder, shaking the nerves. You have indeed met him. Was what you did ordered by him? Uchiha Fugaku's expression changed drastically. From the change in his expression, Chinyu was even more sure that Uchiha Madara had never given up on winning over Uchiha Fugaku, who had opened the Mangekyo Sharingan from the very beginning. After all, this is ready-made combat power. Moreover, as long as he can bewitch this contemporary Uchiha clan leader, it will not be difficult to make a comeback again. Uncle, you underestimate me too much. Chinyu smiled and shook his head, saying, he really wanted me to inherit his will, but if I told you that he was killed by me, would you believe it? He was killed by you. Uchiha Fugaku's expression changed dramatically. In their eyes, Uchiha Madara is a godlike existence. After opening the Mangekyo Sharingan, Uchiha Fugaku had been in contact with him, so of course he knew how terrifying he was. Yes, he is dead. There is no need for me to tell lies to deceive you. Chinyu said calmly. Hearing this, Uchiha Fugaku fell into silence and said after a long time, I also met him 10 years ago. Although he was also aged at that time, he was still stronger than me. For the continuation of the Uchiha clan, I fought with him, but unfortunately I didn't reach your level. Over the years, you should have seen the decline of the Uchiha clan. In fact, if he hadn't taken away all the resources of the clan such as forbidden arts and ninjutsu, our Uchiha clan would not have declined. Chapter 88 Uchiha Madara's Inheritance. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Speaking of this, Uchiha Fugaku couldn't help but pause for a moment and said, I thought that the Uchiha clan would continue to decline, but I didn't expect that geniuses like you and Shursui would emerge. However, I don't want you to follow Uchiha Madara's path. Even he will not be able to escape the result of destruction. I don't want the family to perish again. Chinyu did not refute these words. If Uchiha Madara hadn't left behind that day, he would have left behind the methods for opening the Mangekyo Sharingan, as well as the scrolls for practicing ninjutsu and forbidden arts. I am afraid that the Uchiha clan will not only have a few high-level combat capabilities, just ask, 7 or 8 Mangekyo Sharingan appear in one family at the same time. Looking at the entire ninja world, no one can compare with him. Chinyu, I hope you can give me the answer. Uchiha Fugaku continued to repeat. Uncle, don't worry. My dream is to be a salted fish. As long as they don't go too far, I will still keep my peace. Chinyu said with a faint smile. As the words died down, the place suddenly fell into dead silence. After Uchiha Fugaku's eyes flickered, he finally sighed quietly and said, since you said so, I won't interfere anymore. You have activated the Mangekyo Sharingan, then take a look at the stone tablet to see if there is any inheritance suitable for you. It would also be good to have more power to protect yourself. I'm going back first to see Mikoto and the children. I'm getting old too. I'm afraid you will have to take the position of patriarch in the future. After leaving these words, Uchiha Fugaku turned around and left. Chinyu rolled his eyes and felt helpless for a moment. There was so much foreshadowing, and it turned out that everything was just for the sake of becoming a hands-off shopkeeper. However, what he is most interested in now is the inheritance of the Uchiha clan. After casually flipping through the scrolls placed around him, Chinyu finally understood why Uchiha Fugaku hated Uchiha Madara so much. In addition to some records here, how brilliant Uchiha Madara's achievements were during the Warring States period, and how to praise his strength, there are only 3 things that have anything to do with ninjutsu. Fire release, the art of singing with flames, fire release dragon. Fire technique, fire escape, the great fire is extinguished. In addition to the final extinguishing of the powerful fire, as long as the chakra is released enough, S-level power can be unleashed. Everything else is rubbish. At this moment, Chinyu finally understood what selfishness from a great god was. However, this cannot entirely be blamed on Uchiha Madara, as a great being praised by the family. If it is surpassed by future generations, it would be better if he died. But if he were still alive, he would know that his title of number 1 Uchiha was taken away. I'm afraid I can't let go of this feeling. However, mosquito legs are still meat no matter how small they are. For others, it takes time to practice, but for Chinyu, there is no threshold for any ninjutsu. Ding dang, congratulations to the host for reaching the level of fire escape and flame singing technique with just one click. Ding dang, congratulations to the host for reaching the level of fire release dragon fire technique with one click. Ding dang, congratulations to the host of fire escape and fire extinguishing for reaching level 1 with one click. After hearing the 3 system prompts, Chinyu put the scroll back to its original place and looked at the rough stone tablet, facing the vague Sharingan on the stone tablet. His Mangekyo Sharingan was touched. The next moment, without any warning, it started spinning rapidly. Buzz! A roar flashed through Chinyu's mind, and his consciousness quickly entered the illusion space of the stone tablet. The huge bloody Sharingan looked extremely dazzling in the dark environment. My descendant, this is a memory of the Mangekyo Sharingan I technique that I left on the stone tablet. If you can get it, maybe you can try this invincible technique. Uchiha Madara's voice suddenly sounded, and it felt very ethereal, giving people a sense of superiority. After these words were finished, Chinyu's 9 Magatama Sharingan suddenly stopped turning. After exiting the conscious space, there was a strange way to drive the eye skills in my mind. Ding dong, it is detected that the host has acquired the kaleidoscope amplification eye, whether it is fully leveled with one click. The system's voice suddenly sounded. Chinyu raised his eyebrows, looking very surprised. He had just guessed what this so-called invincible technique was when the system brought him a surprise. In the original work, Uchiha Madara's Mangekyo Sharingan, in addition to the wheel eye technique, also has another unknown eye technique. However, according to Chinyu's speculation, this unknown pupil technique is actually an increase. A powerful auxiliary method that can amplify all attacks such as ninjutsu and pupil techniques, for example, the Go Fireball, the sky-hindering earthquake star, and the three-headed Susanoo. All of this, I'm afraid, was transformed into forbidden magic-like power in the eyes of Zhengjin. Otherwise, in the original work, Uchiha Sasuke has already reached the same height as Uchiha Madara. Why is the ninjutsu he performs not as awesome as his? It seems that Uchiha Madara left the Uchiha clan and took most of the ninjutsu scrolls with him, but he left behind one of the strongest eye skills. However, this is not incomprehensible. Uchiha Madara has always had the mentality of the strong and does not care about the weak at all. Even his clan members are no exception. Instead of leaving some scrolls of ninjutsu and forbidden arts behind, cultivate a group of mediocre people. It is better to leave the strongest pupil skills to the strongest clan members, so that stronger chess pieces can be cultivated. However, if Madara Uchiha knew that the strongest pupil technique he had left behind due to his deliberate layout was actually taken away by the person who killed him, I'm afraid I don't know how I will feel. System, reach full level immediately with one click. Chinyu ordered after recovering his thoughts. Host, please wait a moment. Congratulations to the host, the kaleidoscope amplifying eye has been successfully leveled up with one click. The sound of the system echoed in his mind. Chinyu smiled playfully and felt the urge to try it. The next moment, the stone tablet in front of him clicked, revealing a crack that spanned the entire Sharingan carving. It seems that Uchiha Madara is only planning to give this most powerful eye technique to one person. Just like his domineering thinking, one chess piece is enough. Withdrawing his thoughts, Chinyu did not stay any longer. He had also obtained the strongest thing. Chinyu was not in the mood to study and praise other anecdotes. One of them was killed by himself. After Chinyu left, the sealed door opened and closed automatically. In the living room, Uchiha Fugaku hurried back, looking at the people who were already waiting to eat. The seriousness on their faces was replaced by smiles. Everyone, let's eat first. Chinyu will take some time to come back. Uchiha Fugaku said with a smile. Mikoto, thank you for your hard work this time. When the child is born, Itachi, you must love him more. Dad, don't worry, I will take good care of my younger brothers and sisters. Itachi Uchiha agreed. but the next moment, when he looked into the corridor, his pupils suddenly shrank. "Brother, you came back so soon. Dad said you needed time." Uchiha Fugaku couldn't help but be startled, and hurriedly looked back and said, "Didn't you gain anything either?" As the clan leader, Uchiha Fugaku was orally passed down the secret of the stone tablet, but unfortunately he had turned on the Mangekyo Sharingan, but compared with Qin Feng, who has a system and a strong mental power in 2 lifetimes, he is obviously inferior. "I've gained something, my strength has skyrocketed again." Qin Yu smiled playfully, looked at Namake's Minato and said, "How about we compete and practice our skills?" Chapter 89. Are you tickling me? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Have you gained something? Uchiha Fugaku's expression changed slightly, even Namake's Minato and others on the side were no exception. Qin Yu's current strength has far exceeded their knowledge. If there is another gain now, does that mean that the strength has increased again? There must be something gained. Qin Yu said with a smile. "Okay, what do you want to eat first? If you delay it any longer, the food will get cold." Uchiha Mikoto persuaded. Namake's Minato and the others were filled with eagerness, but they still suppressed it and ate hard with full doubts. The time for a meal passed in a blink of an eye. Uchiha Mikoto had just put away the dishes and chopsticks. In the dining room, except Qin Yu, everyone else stood up. "Qin Yu, I want to spar with you," the 3 said in unison. Uchiha Fugaku, Uchiha Shisui, and Namake's Minato all looked at each other. Facing Qin Yu's unknown gains, there was obviously a hint of urgency in his heart. "Dad, I have gained something, but in such a short period of time, I probably haven't mastered it yet." "Are you too radical?" Itachi Uchiha suddenly said. Uchiha Fugaku and Uchiha Shisui couldn't help but be startled, obviously agreeing with Uchiha Itachi's words. In their eyes, whether it is a ninjutsu or a pupil technique, it takes at least a process to learn and master it. "No, Qin Yu, I believe you have learned it." Namake's Minato said firmly, "Your Uchiha clan is famous for the pupil technique. I think what you have gained, if it is the pupil technique, the speed of learning will be faster." Uchiha Fugaku and Shisui's expressions froze, and when they saw Qin Yu smiling and nodding, their expressions suddenly changed. It can be said that the time difference between Uchiha Fugaku and Qin Yu when they returned to the living room was only a short minute or two. In such a short period of time, even the pupil technique may not be able to adapt. The time you have been in contact with Qin Yu is too short. His learning ability can be called a monster. Minato Namake said it easily, but there was a hint of solemnity on his face as he said, "Then next, do you want to fight? In the village?" Qin Yu smiled playfully and said, "There are at least 30 or 40 people on guard outside. If I accidentally break something, I'm afraid Danzo will bite him." Uchiha Fugaku and Shisui's expressions were also stagnant. Not long ago, Qin Yu even destroyed the Hokage building and killed Aburame to get the root. Although the main responsibility lies with Danzo, Qin Yu is now under surveillance. If he makes any more noise, he will indeed be targeted by Danzo. "Don't worry, we'll leave our clones here and practice outside the village." Namake's Minato smiled playfully. He took out the Flying Thunder God Kunai with his backhand. The next moment, Qin Yu and others disappeared into the mansion with the help of Namake's Minato's Flying Thunder God technique. Only one clone is left to hide from others. Boom. 30 kilometers away from Konoha Ninja Village, in a huge basin, 5 figures descended on the ground like ghosts. "Minato, you are becoming more and more skilled in the Flying Thunder God technique." Uchiha Fugaku glanced around and said, "In the future, if you really want to escape, I'm afraid no one will be able to catch you." Listening to these words, whether it was a compliment or a disparagement, Namake's Minato touched the tip of his nose helplessly and said, "Okay, let's make a quick decision. All 3 of us want to fight Qin Yu. Who will take action first?" Just now in the hall, the 3 people's unanimous actions exposed their thoughts. After all, the strength shown by Qin Yu had already made them fearful. Now if there is any harvest, it will be a nightmare for them. "You 3 come together," Qin Yu said with a smile. A small voice swept through the entire place like a hurricane at this moment. Namake's Minato's expression changed and he said, "Qin Yu, are you kidding? Are you kidding?" Qin Yu shook his head with a smile and said, I'm always serious. Let me remind you, brace yourself, my attack power is extremely powerful. Looking at Chinyu, who was full of confidence, Namake's Minato sank. After looking at each other, they reached a consensus instantly. Do it! Uchiha Fugaku shouted urgently. With another swipe of his hands, dozens of shurikens flew out in an instant, and struck at Chinyu at different angles. At the same time, with his hands flying rapidly, a series of magic seals were formed. The hot chakra accumulated under the mouth and was spit out instantly. Art Fire Escape Hao Fireball, the 7 or 8 meter high fireball condensed instantly and rolled towards Chinyu. At the same time, two figures appeared behind Chinyu. First, Rasengan. The blade of flowing water. The powerful chakra fluctuations were pushed to the extreme. One used the Flying Thunder God technique, and the other used the powerful teleportation technique. It can be said that as the golden flash of Konoha and the name of Shunshin Shursui resounding throughout the ninja world, he simply used his speed to the extreme. However, Chinyu had already been mentally prepared. The moment his eyes turned red, the 9 Magatama Sharingan suddenly turned down. The powerful pupil power exploded instantly like a frenzy. The scarlet color turned into a furious wave, transforming into a Susanoo that was tens of meters in size. The moment the 3 attacks landed on Susanoo, it was as if they were attacking an invisible wall. The powerful fireball technique was instantly detonated. The Rasengan and the water blade were directly annihilated. However, what made their pupils shrink the most was Chinyu's Susanoo, which took on the form of Shura with 3 heads and 6 arms. Angry eyes, compassionate smile, solemn and majestic. This is mind-blowing. His pupil technique has changed, and the aura he exudes is several times stronger. Uchiha Fugaku's expression changed drastically. Namake's Minato and Shursui also hurriedly retreated. Looking at the figure as huge as a hill, there was a hint of solemnity on his face. Are you tickling me? Chinyu smiled warmly. If you can't even break through the defense, then there seems to be no need to continue this battle. The low voice made the 3 of them, Namake's Minato, freeze for a moment. Looking at the entire ninja world, the 3 of them are also outstanding existences. When have they ever been so despised? After looking at each other, a trace of determination flashed in their pupils. Chapter 90 The Difficulty of Super Defensive Beasts. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Use all your strength, don't hide your clumsiness. Uchiha Fugaku shouted coldly. His eyes suddenly turned, and the kaleidoscope of 3 pointed stars instantly unfolded. A burst of purple pupil power penetrated the body and transformed into Susanoo, who was more than 10 meters tall. Uchiha Shursui also moved, his eyes spread with blood, and turned into eyes like sickles hooking the moon. The green pupil power surged out like a frenzy, turning into a Susanoo that was not inferior to Uchiha Fugaku. Watching the 3 of them attack together, they were all killing moves. Although Uchiha Fugaku and Uchiha Shursui, the Susanoo they displayed was not as good as Chinyu's, but Namake's Minato seemed a bit shabby in comparison. In desperation, he bit back on his finger. The moment the blood spilled out, he swiped it directly on his palm. Psychic art. Boom. Smoke rose into the sky, and a body like a hill appeared in it. Minato, you brat, it's rare that you summon me out. But it's still better than that bastard Sharingan guy. Every time he asks me to come out, it's all thankless. Next time I meet him, I will definitely teach him a lesson. As soon as Gamabunta appeared, the gun with a cigarette in his mouth suddenly froze in mid-air. Looking at the behemoth in front of him and Chinyu with a warm smile on his face, his heart seemed to be suddenly tightened by an invisible big hand. Tai, it seems this is a good opportunity for you to teach me a lesson. The words mixed with the playful laughter made Gamabunta's nerves suddenly tense. Looking at Namake's Minato with a wry smile on his head, he felt the urge to fuck his mother for the first time. Minato, what are you doing? Why did you fuck him without notifying me in advance so that I could be prepared? Gamabunta couldn't help but said. Namake's Minato helplessly patted Gamabunta's head and said, Boss, let's compare notes, but I remind you, don't look at Chinyu with the same eyes you had 5 days ago, otherwise you will suffer a loss. Is it just a discussion? Gamabunta secretly breathed a sigh of relief. However, looking at Susanoo, who was as scarlet as blood and exuded the smell of disaster, his expression became a little more solemn. Did this kid hide his weakness 5 days ago, or has he become stronger now? The aura he exudes has increased several times. I don't know either. Maybe he is hiding his weakness or getting stronger. Minato glanced at Chinyu and said, but I can be sure of one thing. If you don't take it seriously, I'm afraid you will die. As soon as these words fell, even Uchiha Fugaku and Shirsue's expressions froze. Do it. The three of them reached a consensus instantly. Explosive Flame Spear, that the Susanoo controlled by Uchiha Fugaku made a move, and caught his fingers in the void. Flames wrapped around him and instantly turned into a spear. Without any flourish, he stabbed directly towards Chinyu Linkong. As soon as the shot was fired, the air along the way seemed to be torn apart instantly like cloth. The flames rolled down and turned into a fire dragon hundreds of meters high, whizzing away with a majestic appearance. Uncle, let me help you. Uchiha Shirsue shouted coldly, his Susanoo 99, the hurricane winds around his right hand, and it instantly turns into a spiral-pointed drill, along with the sharp tearing sound of the hurricane. The dark green hurricane, like a furious wave, instantly rushed into Uchiha Fugaku's 1,000-meter fire dragon. Fire rides on the wind, and the wind helps the fire grow. The moment the two merged, the fire dragon suddenly rose to 1,000 meters. The storm rolled down, and the sound of dragon roars rose into the sky. Minato, you use fire escape and I use toad oil to break Chinyu's defense in one fell swoop. Let that kid see how serious we are. Gamabunta shouted urgently. Good. Namikaze Minato hurriedly agreed, and when his hands flew quickly, Gamabunta's belly suddenly swelled. The next moment, the two attacks shot out simultaneously. Fire release, toad oil flame bullet. As soon as the three people attacked, fire shot up into the sky, and the entire sky was illuminated. Chinyu, who stood in the middle of the attack, had an even bigger smile. The moment the 9 Magatama Sharingan rotated crazily, the power of the eyes was extracted like a frenzy. Boom. The blazing flame instantly engulfed Chinyu in a monstrous manner. The rewinding waves of fire and sea made the surrounding rock basins instantly burn with a sizzling sound. The three of them succeeded in one blow and quickly distanced themselves. At the same time, a pair of eyes stared directly at the battlefield, with a hint of urgency on their faces. You guys, don't be too nervous. If you are hit by such a powerful fire attack, even Susanoo will be melted. Gamabunta said urgently. However, the hand that grabbed the pipe suddenly tightened its grip. Looking at the ferocious figure in the firelight, his expression changed drastically. It's the beast's disaster recorded in the family's iron news. Uchiha Fugaku exclaimed in surprise, looking at the three-headed and six-armed Susanoo in the firelight, covered with a layer of ferocious armor like a samurai. His eyes almost popped open. Fugaku, what kind of method is this? The power of the Susanoo used by Chinyu seems to have increased again. Namikaze Minato asked urgently. Even Uchiha Shirsue beside him couldn't hold back his anger. He was originally best at pupil skills, and the attack just now could be said to be his ultimate move. Coupled with Uchiha Fugaku's fire attack, the power has increased several times. However, facing Chinyu's defense, it seemed pale and powerless. It's the amplification eye. Uchiha Fugaku said solemnly. I also saw it in Uchiha Madara's handbook. After he opened the Manjikyu Sharingan, one of the pupil techniques he possessed was the amplifying eye that can greatly enhance the power of ninjutsu and pupil techniques. Now Chinyu is using the amplifying eye to perform the beast's difficulty. Susanoo's defense increased and turned into armor. Now Chinyu's defense has increased by at least 3 to 5 times. What? Namikaze Minato's expression suddenly changed. The previous defense had left them helpless. Now it has been increased to 3 to 5 times, which can definitely be called absolute defense now. A feeling of powerlessness quickly emerged in Namikaze Minato's heart. The next moment, a ridiculous idea flashed through my mind. Fugaku, what will happen if you use the amplification eye in an attack? Namikaze Minato said hurriedly. At the same time, a roar sounded in Chinyu's mind. Under the rapid operation of the amplification eye, the inheritance from Uchiha Madara emerged in his mind again. The way to use a ninjutsu quickly filled Chinyu's mind like a tide. Ding dang, it's detected that the host has learned the Sky Hindringenshin. Can you please reach the full level immediately with one click?